Hours of Service Compliance. This module will review the critical portions of the Hours of Service regulations to ensure that all employees understand and comply with DOT-regulated laws. If you have any questions after completing this course, be sure to see your safety specialist or contact the Logs team for assistance. To begin, let's discuss each duty status that you will use to maintain your log records. Line 1 equals off-duty, not driving. In the Hours of Service application on your MCP 200, Line 1 is referred to as off. It consists of all time spent off-duty, not working. Examples include home time or seeing a movie. Line 2 equals sleeper berth and is referred to as SB. It consists of all time spent in a DOT-qualified sleeper berth. In order to log time on Line 2, you must physically be in the sleeper. For this reason, drivers and day cab units cannot log on Line 2. Line 3 equals driving and is referred to as DRV. It consists of all time spent at the driving controls of a commercial motor vehicle in operation. Line 4 equals on-duty, not driving, and is referred to as on. It consists of all time from the moment you begin work or are required to be ready to work until the moment you are relieved from all responsibility for performing any work. It does not include any time resting in a parked commercial motor vehicle or up to 2 hours in the passenger seat immediately before or after an 8-hour consecutive break in the sleeper berth. Examples of Line 4 activities include pre-trip and other vehicle inspections, fueling, and giving or receiving paperwork at a customer. Now that you understand the different duty statuses, let's review the rules you must follow to remain compliant with the Hours of Service regulations. The first rule is the 8-hour rest break rule. This states that you may not drive if more than 8 hours have passed since the end of your last off-duty period of at least 30 minutes. What this means is once you start your 14-hour clock, you cannot drive beyond the 8th hour until you complete a 30-minute consecutive break. You may work beyond the 8th hour, but you cannot drive. A consecutive 30-minute rest break on Line 1, Line 2, or a combination of the two will allow you to get all hours back on the rest break rule. All Line 3 and Line 4 time counts against this rule. Line 1 and Line 2 time, when taken in increments of less than 30 minutes, will also count against this rule. For example, if you stop for a restroom break and it only takes you 10 minutes, your 8-hour clock will continue to count down. However, if you stop and it takes you 31 minutes, your 8-hour clock will restart. In this instance, as soon as you start working again, or go on Line 3 or Line 4, you'll have a full 8 hours on the rest break rule. The next rule is the 11-hour rule. This states that you may drive a total of 11 hours following a 10-hour consecutive break. What this means is the maximum amount of time you can drive your truck during a 14-hour on-duty period is 11 hours. However, you still must comply with the earlier mentioned rest break rule by taking a 30-minute consecutive break before the 8th hour after coming on duty. A consecutive 10-hour break on Line 1, Line 2, or a combination of both will allow you to get all hours back on the 11-hour rule. You may also take 2 rest breaks that equal 10 hours in order to get part of your hours back on the 11-hour rule. This is known as a split break and will be discussed in more detail later in this module. All Line 3 time counts against this rule. The third rule is the 14-hour rule. This states that you may drive only during a period of 14 consecutive hours after coming on duty following 10 consecutive hours off duty. What this means is you cannot drive beyond the 14th hour after coming on duty following a 10-hour consecutive break. You may work beyond the 14th hour, but you cannot drive. As with the 11-hour rule, you still must comply with the rest break rule by taking a 30-minute consecutive break before the 8th hour after coming on duty. A consecutive 10-hour break on Line 1, Line 2, or a combination of both will allow you to get all hours back on the 14-hour rule. You may also take a split break to get part of your hours back on this rule as well. All line 1, 2, 3, and 4 time counts against this rule, unless 8 hours on line 2 take place. Lines 3 and 4 start the 14-hour clock. The final rule is the 70-hour rule. This states that you may not drive after 70 hours on duty in a period of 8 consecutive days. What this means is once you reach the 70th hour of on-duty time, which includes line 3 and line 4 time within an 8-day period, you cannot drive until you take a break. You may work beyond the 70th hour, but you cannot drive. A consecutive 34-hour break on line 1, line 2, or a combination of both will allow you to get all hours back on the 70-hour rule. All line 3 and line 4 time counts against the 70-hour rule. Each night at 0-100 hours, you'll get the hours you worked 8 days prior back on your 70-hour rule, unless a 34-hour restart has occurred. The hours you worked consists of your total line 3 and line 4 time for that day. Discuss with your fleet manager before taking a 34-hour restart. It is important to note that the drive time that you have for that day is the lowest time remaining on your 11, 14, and 70-hour rules. For example, if you start your day with full 11 and 14-hour clocks, but only have 9 hours remaining on your 70-hour clock, the work time you have for that day is 9 hours. However, you must remember to take a 30-minute consecutive break before reaching the 8th hour after coming on duty in order to comply with the rest break rule.